far. I can't believe we're already to the end of summertime. This summer feels like it has both been like an endless summer. I feel like I've been enjoying summer since spring, and it also feels like it's gone by in a flash. It has been so beautiful, and I hate to like mark things by lasts because I don't know, I don't like to think of anything as being like the last, but we are headed into autumn super soon. But I also want to celebrate the end of a beautiful season. I need to work on the sourdough crust for our pizza tonight. I feel like I've made pizza in like every summer vlog I've done this season, but we want to make a pizza crust, a sourdough pizza crust. I recently swapped to a gluten-free, dairy-free diet, and I'll share a bit more about that whenever I get into my cooking. Sourdough tends to be less irritating to gluten-free tummies, so I'm gonna try my hand at a gluten-free sourdough pizza crust. Not with my sourdough, that's had to get thrown away. I will share more about that later as well because my sourdough journey is very much still ongoing, but Wesley starter has been beautiful and amazing, so we'll be working with that one. Before we do any of that, one of the things that has been bringing me so much joy this summer has been reading. I feel like I re-entered my reading girl era. I want to thank Jolly Cove Book Club for inspiring that. If you guys didn't know, I'm on a book club podcast with two of my girlfriends, Sophie and Isabella, called the Jolly Cove Book Club, and we do monthly book club episodes where we read a book together and then we chat about it and chat about all kinds of other like bookish life things as well. But it has really just like re-sparked this love of reading for me. I've always been a big reader, but I feel like summertime is always just like whenever I tend to read the most. It just feels so nice to be outside by the pool reading, by the beach reading. So I wanted to kind of recap what I have read this summer and then the other books that I'm hoping to read before the end of summer, before I get into like my fall reading. So this goes back to May. May was pretty slow. It took me a long time to finish my first book of the summer, but it was Malibu Rising by Taylor Jenkins Reid. This was actually my first Taylor Jenkins Reid novel, and I was obsessed. This was probably the book that I read and loved most this summer. After having been to coastal California, reading this book just felt so special and so magical. The setting is gorgeous. I thought that this book read beautifully. A lot of my more like summer rom-com-y books, I would say these read kind of like movies, if that makes sense, where you can honestly read them in one setting. This book to me read more like a TV show in the sense that I needed to digest it a little bit at the time. So this is the book it took me the longest to read, but it was my, I think, favorite one that I read all summer. I read this one solely in paperback. I wasn't in a hurry to get through this one. I really took my time reading it and digesting it, and it was so good. I cannot recommend this one enough. It is a little bit spicy, but from my memory, it has been a couple of months. I don't think it was anything like too crazy. It was really beautiful and super interesting. So Malibu Rising was the first book I read. I guess the next book, let me check my Kindle because I have some books on here as well. I did try and read the Bridgerton series leading up to the TV show. I got about 30% of the way through the first Bridgerton book, and I got the first 3 in like a bundle on my Kindle. So I'm not saying I will never go back to it, but it was a DNF for me. I just couldn't really get into it. I love the TV show. The stories were just like, I don't know, I couldn't get into it. I know some people absolutely adore them, and maybe I'll try again sometime down the road, but was not for me right now. Okay, my memory card ran out of space, so picking up with the second book that I started was Funny Story. I had a really hard time getting into this book just because I could not jive with the main male love interest, Miles. And I actually talked about this on the most recent episode of Jolly Cove, that I was struggling to get into this book. So I took a break from reading this and read Swan Song. So Swan Song is Ellen Hildebrand's latest, actually they're considering this like her swan song. It was her last book of her summer Nantucket series. I love Ellen Hildebrand. So Swan Song is essentially kind of a culmination of Ellen Hildebrand's previous characters, places, and I haven't read too many of her books, and I was still able to follow along really well. So there is an event that happens at the beginning of the book that you find out about. I don't know how to do these yet without giving away too much, but Takes place in Nantucket, beautiful setting. The imagery is beautiful, the character development, even though I didn't have the same rich backstory that other people who've read all of her other books had. And there's like a bunch of elaborate parties that are thrown, and Ellen Hildebrand just does such a beautiful job of imagery and flavors and taste and really sets the setting so well. It feels like you are actually there on Nantucket. I'm like fully convinced like next summer I will be taking a trip to Nantucket to be able to experience the world according to Ellen Hildebrand. Loved that book. If you've read any other Ellen Hildebrand books, you will of course also love this one. And even if you haven't, I think it is such a fun summer read. And I think it is also perfect for end of summer because a lot of it takes place like the end of the summer. So couldn't be more perfect time to read Swan Song if you want to add that to your end of summer TBR. So then I ended up going back to Funny Story. I read the rest of it on my Kindle because I was traveling out of town and I didn't have enough space in my luggage to take 2 books. And so I figured that this took up less space. So I bought it on my Kindle and finished reading it there. I had a really hard time with this one. At first, I was like not into it. Could not get into the story, was kind of like suffering through it. It felt like it was dragging on for me. But once I really got to know Miles, the main character guy, and just saw how kind, his heart for others, his heart for serving others, and his love for his siblings. He was so sweet, so fun, so precious. Actually was kind of like not loving the main character girly, Daphne, by the end of it. But it's so funny because in my Jolly Cove book club recording I had where we were recording Swan Song, I don't know if anyone listened to or watched that, but I was talking about the fact like I was not into Miles at all, and like I ended the book absolutely in love with him. So fun, so sweet. Definitely more of like a rom-com book. I really ended up enjoying this one and loving it. I definitely felt like a clown after that episode went up of Jolly Cove because I was like, oh my gosh, this is not how I feel at all anymore. I hope that this is all making sense. I know I'm kind of jumping around a little bit. After I finished Funny Story, I jumped right into Abby Jimenez, Just for the Summer. I read this book in pretty much one single day. We ended up getting really delayed on our flight out of Texas. And so I wound up sitting and reading this entire book. This one is so cute, so precious. I had heard so many mixed reviews of people saying that this was like super cheesy, and I did not think so. I loved this book. I thought it touched on really deep things. It touched on different traumas and like trauma response, which I thought was super unique in blending that with like a love story. It talked about an older sibling's love for his younger siblings. I mean, that again touched me really deeply. Definitely would reread this book. It's so good. And if you are not a big reader, I feel like this is a good book to kind of get into reading. Pretty long, it's like 400 pages, but it didn't feel that way at all. I feel like this book read like a movie in the way that you could read it all in one setting because I just like absolutely devoured it. But I really enjoyed reading this one. It was super fun and really special for summer. Also, it took place in kind of a similar setting actually to Funny Story. This took place in northern Michigan on one of the Great Lakes, and I'm pretty sure this one is in Minnesota, like coastal Minnesota. So again, also on one of the Great Lakes. So that's kind of fun that these were both similar set books. So the next book that I read was on Kindle and audiobook, and it was Broken French. And it was my least favorite book that I've read all summer and least favorite book that I've read in a really long time. And if I were not reading this as a Jolly Cove book, I would not have finished it. Theoretically, I should have loved it. It takes place on a yacht in the Mediterranean. The scenery of this book was beautiful. It is a billionaire, widowed, single dad. A nanny comes on the boat. They fall in love. I don't know if you could call it love though. It felt more... This is the spiciest book I think I've ever read, if you don't count the Court of Thorns and Roses books. So I was very thrown off. It felt more like lusty than lovey, in my opinion. And so there was like a disconnect for me. I know some people really like this book, and I didn't really get it. I think I gave this a 2-star rating on Goodreads, and I never give a 2-star rating on Goodreads. Again, we'll be talking about this more on Jolly Cove, so if you want to hear us all chit chat about it, so you should just subscribe to Jolly Cove so you can get the full review. And same with Summer Romance. So Summer Romance, I also did reading an audiobook for that one. Summer Romance is by Annabelle Monaghan. It was cute, it was fun, not really like a standout book for me. We'll talk about it more on Jolly Cove. I'm new to giving like full book reviews. I only do these like a couple of times a year for this reason, because I feel like I just ramble on and on and on. It's kind of hard to talk about books like by yourself. It's why I do Jolly Cove, so I can talk about books with my girlies, but I don't get to go quite as in depth with the books that like I'm reading for my own pleasure. So that's why this is nice to be able to, like, if other people have read them too, we can chat. And if you're looking for inspo, it's nice to have other inspo. Overall, I enjoyed the book. Probably will never read it again. I'm excited to talk about it with the girlies tonight. It was cute. It was fun. I definitely would have finished it even if I just read it on my own, but that is everything that I have been reading this summer. Since summer is not over yet, I still have 4 more books that I want to read before September rolls around. I'm currently reading Ellen Hildebrand's 5-Star Weekend. I wanted some more Ellen Hildebrand before the end of summer, and I want to finish out my Emily Henry read, so I will be completely caught up with her books. And so I ordered Beach Read to be one of my end of summer reads, and I really liked this book. I think it'll be cute sitting on my bookshelf with some of my other beachy reads, so I thought this would be fun to get in paperback. And then our book club book for September with Jolly Cove is The Perfect Couple by Ellen Hildebrand. So that will be like my swan song final book of the summer. Whew! I literally just sat here and yapped about books for 25 minutes, so hopefully I was able to pare that down so you guys didn't have to listen to me yap about books for 25 minutes. But I love reading. I love chatting about books that I've read. It's kind of hard to do so one-dimensionally, so maybe I'll come up with like a set of criteria for the future of like what exactly I'll share and like highlight what I liked and didn't like about each book. So if there's anything like you guys want to know specifically that I enjoyed or didn't enjoy about books, feel free to leave a comment, because I'm always looking for feedback on how I can better share things with y'all. Something that I want to do tomorrow, and it's been on my summer bucket list the entire season, is get a library card. So I thought that would be fun and special to do. Maybe go get a coffee, browse the library, and see. We're gonna do that tomorrow. Now I want to do a bit of a refresh. I need to refresh my dining room table, get that sorted out. I need to redo the flowers that are there, and then we will get started on making our pizza dough for tonight. I'm so excited because I'm finally using my new rifle paper vase. I think this is so beautiful and perfect for a little summertime bouquet. Our sourdough pizza dough. I'm going to be using some of Wesley's sourdough discard. Oh my gosh, that smells quite perfect actually. I was learning that my really smelly sourdough starter was not smelling correct at all. So that smells perfect. I'm following a King Arthur recipe that my friend Liz gave to me, so I will link it at the bottom if you also want to make some. Not only are we doing sourdough because it's a great use of discard, but also I kind of mentioned this earlier, but I have adapted a gluten-free diet. I should say readapted, because when I was in high school, I was diagnosed with a gluten intolerance. It's definitely still been there since high school, but whenever I went off to college, there were not nearly as many gluten-free options as there are now, and so I found it much harder to keep up with it. But I just feel so much better when I'm not consuming gluten. I have more energy. I overall feel so much less swollen, and I sleep better. Skin is clearer. My body just does not tolerate it super well. I was just to the point where I was battling a bit of inflammation, and I knew that the answer was to re-eliminate gluten, and I've just kind of been dragging my feet about it for some time, just because so much has gluten in it. I'm always on the go, out with friends, the beach, at the theme parks, and it just makes it a little bit, wow, that was exactly 227 grams. Perfect. Okay, so I need to get my big guns out for this. And by big guns, I mean my KitchenAid. I don't remember where I left off. In like the 10 plus years since I've been gluten-free, even beyond the 3 years that I went like totally gluten-free, I've really limited my gluten intake in different seasons. I know that I feel my best whenever I take it away completely. And that's not to say whenever we go on like trips or if we're at a restaurant that's like, you know, a special occasion that I won't treat myself again to a little gluten, but for the most part, I know I feel better when I'm not consuming it, so I'm gonna try really hard to keep it as out of my daily diet as possible. All right, it's time to make the magic. One of my new favorite gluten-free snacks, because I fell in love with Tate's Bake Shop at the start of the summer. They make a gluten-free chocolate chip cookie that tastes almost the exact same as the traditional. So if you're a gluten-free girly, definitely check these out. That it kind of looks just like the picture, so I'm going to cover this, and then theoretically in the next 2 to 4 hours it will double. I'm getting set up for our Jolly Cove recording. Sophie just sent over the podcast link. We do these things called Jolly Drink Corners, and one of the things that they say throughout the book is a champagne summer, and so I decided to do, and I rarely drink, but I decided a little glass of champagne was perfect for chatting about this book. I need to go grab my mic. I just realized I don't have my mic. This is a very big day. We just finished recording for Jolly Cove, so Wesley has been kindly working on these pizzas while we finished the episode. We did brie cheese, a little bit of prosciutto, topped with Mike's hot honey, some basil, and some crushed walnuts. The recipe itself is fabulous. Hello, it's the next day. We are about to go get our last nail set of summer. I've actually kept my nails pretty natural for most of the summer. I did like a really pretty blue set for July, and I actually am not really sure what I want to get. Part of me just wants to do like a classic chrome, like white chrome nail. I feel like that's very appropriate for like August, and then I want to get my nails done like pretty early on into September. So this is truly just like a summer set. I have a couple of inspos that I'm loving. These just like pretty simple red nails. I think that those are better for like transition, so I might save those. I love the idea of doing like a deep navy blue, and then the other one that I love is like a French milkshake. So like heavy on the French at the top, but then at the bottom, instead of it being like clean, it's like milky. I don't know, we'll see what I come out with. Okay, nails are done. I did a French manicure with a milky base and like a chrome on top. I think they're so fun and very like coastal chic. And I haven't had a French manicure since the start of the year, so I thought it was time to have a little classy on my nails. So I'm excited. I really like these. Now we are gonna go get my library card. I think I want to go grab a matcha on the way though, so let's go pick that up and then we'll go get our library card. Just got home. Here's my library card. I have a really small library haul because I only got one book. Didn't really have much time. And the two books that I was hoping to grab were two of the ones from my TBR, either The Perfect Couple or Paradise Problem. They didn't have either of those, but I've heard Sophie talk about Sally Hepworth before, and I've heard a lot of good things about this book. So I figured it would be fun to read, and it's fairly short. So if I finish all my other books before the end of summer, I can add this one to the list. And I didn't want to leave my first library visit empty-handed, but one of the things I was most excited about getting a library card was getting access to the Libby app so I can download books onto my Kindle. I'm so excited to finally have a library card. I feel like this is gonna be so much fun being able to take little trips over. And I didn't realize one of the branches is actually bikeable to our house. How fun will it be to take little bike rides to the library? It truly was so nostalgic being in a big public library. It reminded me of my days as a little girl growing up going to our public library in South Mississippi. And so, I don't know, I'm really excited. I'm probably the most excited 27-year-old to have a library card. It's the next day. We are headed to Epcot to have just like a fun, cozy evening here with two of our friends, Josie and Renee. I've just been having the sleepiest Saturday ever. I ended up going out with Liz last night and we stayed out so late. So I'm exhausted, but I'm excited for a fun night in the parks.